Good morning, everyone. It's Brenda Quintana here, and today we are going to make a fancy fold card. And this one is actually taken right out of our current mini catalog, and I really love this card right from the beginning. But when I looked at it, I knew that people would look at the card and want to make it, and they would run into some trouble because there are a few little things you need to know about how to make this card in order to make it work. And so I thought I would show you how to make it. There will be a project sheet that I will send you tomorrow with instructions on step-by-step instructions on how I make the card. So if you want to get that project sheet, make sure you are part of my email list. There is a link below in the description of this video that you can click on, and that will help you subscribe. When you subscribe, you are sent a welcome email, and that email has some instructions in it to help you get those emails to your inboxes. Because we receive a lot of spam emails, I'm sure if you've subscribed to anything, you receive spam emails. I don't do anything else with your email address except send you stuff about stamping, and you can always unsubscribe. There's a link down at the bottom, so it's really easy. But sometimes we get on a lot of email lists, and all of a sudden our inboxes are full of spam. And so what happens with our email list providers is they kind of weed out some of the spam. Well, sometimes my emails get stuck in that filter. And so it really helps if you put my email address in your address book that you want email from me, and that way it makes it a lot easier. So when you get that welcome email, make sure you have a look at it. It will be really helpful to you so that you can get those project sheets, okay? And if you have difficulty with your email list subscription, please send me a private message. Don't post your email address down below in the comments or anything like that. I don't want your email address out in the world. But if you send me a private message, I will definitely look into that. Okay. So I am going to turn my camera over to my other camera, make sure it's on and working, so that I can show you the card. It's easier to show you the card from that angle than anything else. And I just want to also mention anything that I am talking about today, it's a product. If you want to know more about it, if you want to make this card, you're going to need the supplies to make it. So especially the cute Woodland Wonder Stamp Set. So if you click on the link down below, that takes you over to my blog. I have a clickable supply list that you can click on, and it shows you all the products that I use today just to make everything easy for you. So I'll mention products as I go along, and if you have any questions, if you need to know, do I really need this product or not, you can also contact me and I can help you decide your supplies and what you will need to make this card. Okay, let's pop over, and good morning to everyone that's joining me this morning. So glad that you're here. All right, so this is the January to June mini catalog. If you still need a copy of this catalog, you can contact me for one of those as well. And this is the card right here. I'm kind of bringing it in. It's hard to see, but it's a card. It's a very long card because it's got this big, long fold out piece. And I looked at the stamps and I'm like, something's doubled up there, and I'm going to have to show people how to do that card. They do put the fold instructions up there, which I love that they did that, but there are a few little tricks that you need to know. This is on page 53 of the Jan to June 2021 catalog. All right, let me show you my card. I did it in slightly different colors, but it's cute, right? Because you've got the fold right here that is just the short tree, and then you pull it out and you've got the long tree. I love that. So you might wonder, why didn't Stampin' Up just make one big long stamp? so that you didn't have to stamp all of those little pieces of the tree. Here's the Woodland Wonder Stamp Set. And the trunk pieces come into pieces. Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is our stamps need to fit into a case, a standardized case. We don't want to have really big, long stamps. I mean, it would be nice, but for us to store things, they need to break things up into smaller pieces. So we have these smaller pieces, and then we can put them on different blocks, or this our stamping tool, our stamparatus, to create this piece. The other nice thing is then it makes it easier to stamp smaller images and bring them together and make whatever length of tree you want. So it also makes it a little bit more adjustable. Okay, so here's that. On my blog this morning, I also posted a couple other cards, and I'm going to show you how I stamped these. This one's a slimline card, so if you didn't want to do the fold out, you could also do like a slimline card. Okay, and then this is just a regular size card, and I just did a short tree for this one. So you don't have to do a super long one. You can do the short one, but I love this. Wouldn't this be a cute kid's birthday card? Or, okay, I always say kid's birthday card, but really this would be the birthday card that I would want because I like cute animals. So you might have friends that like cute animals too. And I think this is just super adorable having that fold out element. Okay, so how are we going to create that card? You need this stamp set, Woodland Wonder. And you're going to need a piece of basic white cardstock. And this piece, I'm using the regular basic white, not the thick one, just the regular one, because it stamps better. And also, it's not going to be our card base. This is the fold-out element, so it doesn't need to be super thick and sturdy. So this piece measures 10 3/4 inches by 4 inches. And you can take your trimmer, or I always like to use my scoring tool because I love my scoring tool, and put that 10 3/4 inch side up at the top. And we're going to score this at the 5 1/4 inch mark and the 8 inch mark. So 5 1/4 and 8 inches, okay? The trick with this one, first of all, is put this away. You don't want to fold this piece, okay? Because once you fold it, it's not going to lay flat, and it's going to be harder to stamp on. So you want to just keep this piece flat and unfolded while you're stamping and coloring, okay? So let's have a look at the stamps that comprise our image. So we've got this long one right here. You can probably barely see it, with 4 different animals on it. This is the one we're going to use to stamp first. We have our tree top stamp, and we've got this trunk, the base stamp. We're actually going to use this one twice to create a longer trunk. The other thing that you might notice is I am using a bigger block than I actually probably need. So I could put this guy on an H block, but what happens on an H block is the ends of this stamp are right in the portion of the block that has distortion. And it's really hard to see sometimes where you're stamping exactly. So I prefer to go slightly larger on my block size so I don't have that distortion. So I put this one on an I block, okay? And then I always want to make sure that I've got a good visual of where the connection's going to be, that it's not in the distortion. So these two are on D blocks, and I twisted this one so I could have a better view of where I was stamping. Okay, so let's have a look at the piece that I stamped here. And I wonder if I can get a better light on this one here. Let's see if I can bring some light in here. I wonder if that's gonna help. Maybe not. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just lightly pencil mark up my score line so you can kind of see where I'm stamping. Okay, I hope that helps a little bit. So the two smaller segments are facing you, and the big large one is the furthest away from you. And then I'm going to use this bigger one first, and I'm using Memento ink because I'm going to be using Stampin' Blends with my coloring, for my coloring. If I were going to be using watercolor technique, then I'd want a water proof ink. But for blends, which are alcohol markers, I want Memento ink. Let me open that up. Okay, so I'm inking this up, and my wrist, which I hurt earlier this week, is still a little sore, but I'm not wearing my brace because while I'm stamping, it's kind of hard. So I'm keeping it off. When I stamp a lot, it actually does kind of twinge a little bit. So let's have a look at this. I want to stamp that raccoon right above this line. Oh, and one more thing. I want to take my ruler and make myself a pencil mark 1 1/4 inches in from the side, and I'm gonna rest my trunk against that 1 1/4 inch mark so that I know how far away from the edge to have this, because it's gonna need enough room for this treetop piece, and if I have it too far over, it's gonna cut off a lot of the foliage. Okay, so now I probably need to ink this up just one more time. Ink, ink, ink. All right, I think we're finally ready to stamp, and I'm gonna stamp standing up, and that raccoon head is going to be just above the line, the score line, and I'm gonna try and keep it really straight, and then I come down, and then make sure I get a really good push on there because it's a long stamp. Okay, and then lift off. And you can see my little raccoon head is just above that line. Okay. So the next stamp we're going to do, this one is the little tricky one because we need to extend this. If I were to stamp this down here, then my trunk would not be long enough, or the bottom of the tree would not be long enough. So what I'm going to do with this stamp right now is perfectly clean. I cleaned it with my chamois this morning, so it's really nice and clean. I'm just going to ink up part of my stamp. I don't want to ink up the grass, just the straight part of the trunk. Okay, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to come down along the lines of my trunk. I'm going to try and line things up. I'm kind of going away, and then I'm kind of going together. Okay, I think that looks good. And then I'm going to come down and then just stamp right there. So you can see just a little bit where I connected it, but by the time I color it, you won't even see that. I know it's there, it's right there, but even if you're a little bit off, once you connect it with coloring, you won't notice it. Okay, so now I can take the stamp and I'm going to fully ink it up so I get the base of the tree. And then I'll come through, and I always kind of hold it over, and then I line up the outer edges of the tree and come down, come away, and then come in. All right. And so now I've got that base part of the trunk on this last fold of my piece. Okay, now I just need to connect my top of my tree. So ink this up. And then this time I'm coming down until I see it connect. All right. So what would happen if I didn't do a good connection? Like say if I had like a little gap or something. Say I didn't connect this very well. Say I was too far away. I would just take a little Sharpie pen and I would just draw in the lines to connect it. That's what I would do. And you could do that before or after coloring. So, but either way you would connect it. All right. So now I've got all of the tree stamped and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And now we can have a little fun. On this one, there are some other little things that you can put on here. And one of them is the little bunny at the bottom. So I'm going to add the little bunny. And he just comes in, just his cheek just touches down there at the bottom. So we can add the bunny. The owl can be holding the yay, or the owl could also hold a balloon, but I'm going to put the balloons on the inside. So I'm just going to kind of attach the yay right there. We can add some butterflies. Oh, but before we do the butterflies, let's add the hip hip hooray sign in. So there's kind of this little post that kind of comes out. So we stamp that first, and I do that just below the owl on the opposite side. And then we can take the hip hip hooray. And those little ties, they cross the pole. Okay. So see here, there's also a balloon, and there's two butterflies, but I'm just going to use the one. Okay. And then we can add a butterfly here and another one down here. And okay, I added clouds, but let's do the clouds afterwards because you can position clouds better once you can fold this piece. And I really recommend that you do all of your coloring because some of the coloring is over top of a fold. And once you fold it and you color over top, the color wants to go right into that fold and you don't want that. So let's do all the coloring first and we'll do the clouds afterwards. Okay, I think I did all the stamping that I needed for the coloring. So let's bring in my colors that I'm using. These are all Stampin' Blends from Stampin' Up. Put some of these stamps aside. And let me talk about the colors real quick. I'm using Granite, Gray Granite, Crumb Cake, Granny Apple Green, So Saffron, Pool Party, Calypso Coral, and Navy, Night of Navy. Okay, those are all the different colors that I'm using on here. So I'll start with the top of the tree, and I'm going to use Granny Apple Green Dark, and I'm going to just color in all of the leaves. And I will color this whole piece for you today, and I know this is going to take a little while, but I want to show you how I did it so that you can kind of see how you can do yours. I didn't do too much shading on the leaves. Actually, I didn't do any shading on the leaves. I am just coloring the leaves into a big green tangle of leaves. If you want to take the time to do some shading, you can absolutely do that. But there's a lot of coloring to be done on this card, so I wanted to kind of keep it simple on the leaves because you're going to spend a little bit of time here just coloring every single leaf. But it looks so pretty. after it's done. The Stampin' Blends really provide nice vivid color, nice bright color. And I think if you give this card to someone, I think they'll really like it. Because it's so cute. We don't often get cards like this. If you buy your cards in a, like Hallmark cards, you don't often get these special type cards that have like a pull-out element to them. And I know when I was a kid, I always loved pop-ups and anything that was kind of a fun fold. I found those mesmerizing. I hope kids these days still find those mesmerizing. I know they've got so much media these days, but I always found it fascinating to see how things folded in place. Kind of a tactile thing. Okay. Do you guys like this stamp set, the Woodland Wonder Stamp Set? Did it intrigue you at first too? I don't know. I'm always attracted to the little animals. Okay, since I have my Granny Apple Dark out, I'm also going to do my grass down here. And for the grass, I am just going right over top of those little blades of grass, because they don't really have an outline, but I want to have them look green. So that is how I did that. Okay, next, let's start from the top and work our way down. We're going to do the little bird up here. I'm using my Night of Navy light, and this is going to be a blue bird. So I am coloring the blue bird. The top of a blue bird is blue, and then the breast is kind of a rusty, a rust color. So there's another bird here. So while I'm doing it, I'm going to do both birds at the same time. I hate to use the saying, doing two things at once in bird talk. That's not a very nice saying, so I won't say it, especially since these critters are very cute. And then I'm taking my Calypso Coral Dark and giving each of them kind of a reddish breast. And then I'll take my Calypso Coral Light. I could have picked other colors too, but I tried to repeat the colors that I had. And since I had the Calypso Coral as a color, I'm just reusing that color combination. Okay, so the birds are done, and now let's go to the squirrel. And I'm going to use light gray granite, and it's a little gray squirrel. Come in, and I'm going to omit the eye and the snout, and just color in everything else. Okay. Next up, the raccoon, and I'm going to use the dark gray granite, and I'm just going to hit the snout area and the ears. And in my original one, I also did his mouth, but I decided I'm going to leave the mouth blank on that one. The owl, we're going to take the Calypso Coral Dark. See, I'm reusing the colors because it just makes sense. It brings continuity in. Okay, I also did my bunny in Calypso Coral, so I'm just going to do the center of the ears on the bunny while I have that out. And then we're going to do the breast of the owl, and we're going to do the bunny. Kind of like an Easter bunny, I guess, because he's pink. A pinky corally color. But this is actually going to be a birthday card. Okay, so then for the little signs, I'm going to use my So Saffron Light, and I'm just going to come in You know what? I'm going to use the brush tip on this. I have a bigger area. I'm going to come in and color the signs just to give them a little bit of a pop of color without, I don't want to go too dark on here because if I go too dark then you won't be able to see the words. And I'm going to repeat that with the yay. Just kind of keep those two things the same color. And then I'm going to use my So Saffron Dark to do the little butterfly down here. Am I still on camera? Okay, good. Okay. All right, and I'm missing a couple things. Didn't do the little butterfly here, so let's do this one in Night of Navy Light. So these colors, you know, they are great. These Stampin' Blends are really fun to color with, and they've lasted a long time, especially if you're careful with the brush tips. They can last you a long time with your coloring, and then once they dry out you can just go ahead and replace them. So but I have loved these as a coloring medium because they are so nice and bright, and they look just really nice on here. Okay, so now we need to color this big long trunk, and I'm going to start with my Crumb Cake Dark, and I'm using the bullet tip, and I'm just going to hit all of the little bark marks. Okay, this is my attempt at shading in a simple way. I noticed I missed the nest here. I'll come back with some saffron and fix that in a moment. So just come along, and this will give your tree a little bit of depth because it is a big long piece. Then I'll come in with my Crumb Cake Light, and I'll start at the bottom, and I'm using the brush tip, and I'm just going to come along and just kind of blend up as I go along. And all of those marks will kind of be blended out, but it's going to give it some shading because I went in with the dark one first. Okay, coming up. This actually doesn't take as long as you would think because it is a big long trunk, but it doesn't take that long because it's a natural way for you to go up the trunk, kind of in a long, fast way. And then I'll just come in and do these little limbs. Okay, it's coming together right. Okay, so I really do kind of need to make sure I have no black on here. I'm going to come in and erase my lines now because I kind of penciled them in and they're kind of annoying me now. Okay. So we haven't done any clouds yet, so we'll fix that in a second. But we want to come in and do some folding. So let's move this one in here, and we're going to fold this one like this. And then we're going to fold this one like that. Okay. That is so cute, right? Look at that. It's like all matching up, and I see another pencil line that I didn't get. Okay, so now for the clouds. When I did this one, I stamped the clouds first, and I have this awkward little cloud right here. You can barely notice it, but I can do better. So what I'm going to do, I noticed that, I'm going to make myself a little pencil mark right here. And now when I stamp the clouds, I want to stamp them from here up. Or if I'm going to put one here, I need to make sure that it's a little bigger than just a little blip right there. But I think I'm not going to stamp anything in that area below there. So I've got my little cloud stamp, and I'm going to take my pool party. Let me move these out of the way. Too much stuff on the desk at once. When I'm stamping normally, it gets really messy, but when I'm watching someone stamp, I don't want to see too much stuff because it gets kind of annoying. Because you're probably thinking, why doesn't she just put that little thing away? Because you're thinking about other things than just me stamping, right? So let's do one stamp. I'm going to take a piece of scrap paper. Let's do one stamp over here in the corner with the cloud coming off a little bit. Then we can do one maybe coming just a little bit lower right here and full on. And then maybe right here, I'm just going to go right above here and just kind of half on. Do I want a fourth one? No, I think I'm going to be content. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to be content with just those 3 clouds. I like odd numbers. You've probably heard that before. And now I'm going to grab my pool blend, and I'm going to color these in. And they didn't do that in the original. They just left kind of pool party clouds, but I'm going to just kind of color them in. I'm going to leave like a little bit of a white spot too. Okay. So then I'm going to come in, and this one, I have a white spot there. And this one. All right. So now that kind of folds up nicely, and let me bring my eraser back here because I don't want that little line there anymore. Okay, that was just a little helpful mark. And I want to add happy birthday down here in a little banner format. So I've got a piece of cardstock. I don't know how long this is. It's probably about 3 inches or something long. I'm going to cut it, but I need it to be probably at least 3 inches because this banner punch needs at least some length for it to fit in there and punch. So let me open this up on the bottom, and I'm going to slide it in the 1/2 inch slot and give it a little punch. Okay, so it's going to go right here. So I want to stamp happy birthday closer to the banner end. This is the banner's Pick-a-Punch. And if I had to have an end punch right now for my little greetings and words, this is the one that I would choose. I really like this one. It's got the pointy end and the banner end and the 3 different sizes, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and 1 inch for those little slots. Really great for punching little strips for words. Kind of cool. And then I'll come in with my memento. And there is a happy birthday stamp in there. So I'm just going to take this, or you could have this on the inside too. And then I'm going to just stamp that down right there. Isn't that cute? So cute. So cute. Little tiny itty bitty words. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just kind of line this up and put myself a little pencil mark right here. And maybe I didn't need the pencil mark. I just need some paper snips. So let me just use this as a guide and paper snip it. Could also use a trimmer if you wanted to be like really nice and straight. But since this is only 1/2 inch you're cutting, it's pretty easy to get it straight. And then I'm just going to take some Tombow and glue this on. The bottom, and I chose Granny Apple Green for my banner just to tie it in, and since this is kind of the grass anyway, it makes a lot of sense to have Granny Apple Green repeat down here at the bottom. Okay, so we've got the ins or the folded part all done, and now we need a card base. And for this one, it's better to have a tent fold than a fold that comes like this, because if you want to sit this card out, it kind of makes sense to go this way. If you have one fold coming out this way, it doesn't work quite as well. So I recommend doing the tent fold. So this one started off as 11 inches by 4 1/4 inches, and I scored it in half at the 5 1/2 inch mark. Okay. Or if you don't want to have like a fold, you could just mount it on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, but then you won't have a really great space to write on the inside. And I'm going to show you in a second what I did on the inside. So I need to put Tombow on the back piece right here, only the big side. This does not have any adhesive on it. So, and you want to be kind of light in your adhesive because this is the light basic white. So it's like a little bead of glue. Okay, don't go too heavy-handed on it. A little will go a long way. So let me fold this in. And make sure you've got it going the right way. Fold is at the bottom, or that, sorry, not the fold. The opening is at the bottom. And then you can press this down. Okay. So there's the card. It's so fun. Okay, so on the inside, I thought it'd be really cool to do some little butterflies holding balloons. I think that's cute. So I'll show you how I did that. Let me move these off to the side. This is a little piece of 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. And I'll take my balloons and my butterflies, again with the Memento, ink up the balloon, and I want this fairly close to the top. Usually I write the person's name right at the top, like dear so-and-so. So I'll stamp the first balloon as the tallest or the highest balloon, okay? Then I'm gonna come in and stamp one that's kind of nested next to it. And then this last one is going to be a little bit lower than the second one. You don't want the balloons to be the same height. I don't know why, but you don't want that. It doesn't look right. Okay, so you've got your 3 balloons, and then you're going to take your butterfly and just, it's easier to do this standing up, so you've got bird's eye view. You're just going to connect that end to that first butterfly. And I went down a little far with the string, but once I color it, you won't really notice it. So just kind of see where and then this one will be right here. Okay. So I've got them stamped, and I'm just going to show you how I colored one of them. Let's do the Night of Navy Light, because that's the brightest color. So I'm just going to come in with my brush, and I'm coming around the middle, and I'm going to leave a little white space. That's the where the reflection is. Okay, so I'll always kind of just do that, and then I'll come in with my butterfly, and the butterflies are going to match the color of the balloon that they're holding. That just makes logical sense to me, but. And that is how I would do it. And then I would do 3 different colors like I did here. So just for the 3 different colors, Night of Navy Light, So Saffron Dark, and Calypso Coral Dark. And I would do all those 3, and then I would adhere that to the inside of the card. So that's how I would do that. I also wanted to show you how I would stamp the slimline card. I'm not going to color it for you, but here's our slimline card again. And you want to kind of stamp it in the same way. Let me see if I did the measurements. It's also about 1 1/4 inches. So it's kind of good. Actually, I think I did. I stamped it from the, did I stamp it from the top up or the bottom up? I can't even remember. Let's stamp it from the bottom up. So I want to just make myself a little line down here at the bottom to kind of just remind me of where the trunk needs to be, because if I don't do a good job of that, then half my tree is going to be off the side when I get to the top. So for this one, this piece measures 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches. This slimline card, if you want just a regular envelope, and I had a ton of these envelopes kicking around and I used them all up. I used my last one last week for some reason. These are the kind of envelopes that like bills come in, those long skinny ones. We used to have a ton of them. You could always make your own envelope, but if you have any other envelopes kicking around, that's what a slimline card would fit into. It's just a regular envelope because the outside of the card, it's 8.5 by, let me see, 8.5 by 4. So that would be, because these envelopes used to take a sheet of 8.5 by 11 and fold it into thirds. So it just will fit right into one of those regular envelopes. Okay. And so we're starting off, this one is 3.5 by 8.5. Okay, let me just stamp this for you so I can show you how I did it. Okay, so we'll start off with a trunk. And we're going to stamp this about 1/2 inch from the bottom, roughly. Okay, so 1. This one doesn't have that extra little piece in it because it's not quite as long as the other one. So then I'm going to come in and do that middle section. So this is just going to take 3 stamps to create the tree. So then we're going to connect this up. Let's see. Okay. Okay, you know what? I'm going to actually stamp it this way because I can hold the stamp like this a little better and come down a little better. Okay. Sometimes if you rotate something, it's just a little easier to stamp. So don't feel like you can't rotate something. Because I was going like this and I was like, this is going to be really hard to bring down on the paper. But if I have the support on both sides like this, it's really a lot easier. Okay, then the last part of this tree comes up top like that. And again, I'm just bringing it down until they connect. And then I'm coming up again, connecting. And then it just takes a little back and forth so you can determine exactly where the connection point is. And you can see this one's just a tiny bit off, but you will not notice that once you've got it colored. So don't be afraid of this stamp. You can be a little bit off with it and it won't be noticeable to anyone but yourself afterwards, okay? So then you can go ahead with this card and, you know, add like a balloon if you want, the sign. This little bunny right here, I decided to put the yay sign over here. It's almost like that bunny's hand is extending across. So you can do that. And I colored it in the exact same way as I colored the other one. Okay. All right, so that's the slimline card. And then for the regular card, I'll just show you how I stamped that. This starts with a 5" by 3 3/4" piece. And this one, I'm going to start with the trunk again. And this one is about 3/4 inch from the side and about 1/2 inch from the bottom. Okay, and this time we're just connecting. This is a shorter tree, so we're just going to connect the top and the bottom to create this tree. And just kind of come in until you see the connection, go back out, come back in. Okay, so there is the tree. And then I would just go in and stamp all of my little guys, like the little bunny. And he comes in like this. We've got the little yay flag. Can come through here like this. It really doesn't have to be exact. And then the happy birthday, I added this one to the front of the card. And not in a banner. There's kind of a nice little spot right there to kind of nest that happy birthday in. That creates the good flow. And then you can come in and do some clouds, right? And I just did the clouds and pool party. You could actually, if you wanted to do them in memento as well, I kind of stayed true to the original design of the card where they did the clouds and pool party. But you don't have to do that. You can go back in and do everything in the dark color because it would make logical sense as well. Especially if you don't have a pool party ink pad, you could do it all in memento. Memento ink is one ink pad, especially if you're starting out, I would definitely recommend. So then I colored it just like I did the same color scheme as I did for that first card. Nothing really different. I did add a little bow. This is some crinkled ribbon, and I colored it with the Granny Apple Green blends. So it's barely perceptible because it's on the tree, but it adds just a little something to the front of the card. So you can definitely do this as a shorter tree card, and it's very cute as well. And then you have the slimline card right here. Move this off the way. And then we have the fun fancy fold card that bends down with the super long trunk. And I think that's just kind of fun. But those are 3 different versions of the card, and none of these are hard to make. They're all really easy. This one I just added a little bit of that Playful Pets trim. It's a little black and white baker's twine in that trim pack, and I just tied it in a knot, and then I just opened up the twisty part up onto the knot with, I used my paper piercing tool, this little piece, or you can use a thumbtack or something, and I just like untwisted the strands to, it makes it look like a little bit of a tassel. So I just added that to the side of that card. But all of these kind of use all the same supplies. You know, the Granny Apple Green, the basic white, the same colors as Stampin' Blends. So you could create all of these cards basically using all the same supplies. So I'm going to come back here and read your comments and see what you think and see if you have any questions. And I already said good morning, Karen. Karen asked me how my wrist is. So it is better, but you know, what happens when I do a lot of stamping, it does get a little sore, so I have to kind of put the wrist brace on. I sleep with it on so that I keep my wrist from moving at night, so I don't end up banging it on anything. I notice after, and I picked stamping intensive cards this week for some reason. It was just the week of that. And I noticed that it gets sore if I stamp a bunch in a row, and this actually was very stamping intensive as well. But it doesn't really hurt at the time, it just kind of hurts afterwards, you know, when I'm not like thinking about it. But it is not broken, and it is just, it's going to heal fairly, very quickly. By next week, I should be 100% good. I was just a little concerned to put a lot of pressure on it because I didn't want to, I wanted to make sure it was not broken because I didn't want to make it worse. And since it's not broken, I can now, I feel like I can just baby it a little bit and maybe not stamp anymore today. I've got lots of other things I can do to in my stamping business that doesn't involve stamping. And so I can give it a little bit of a rest. And so thank you so much for asking, Karen. It is so much better. And I'm sleeping better too, which is great because that day on Tuesday when I woke up, I hadn't had a good night's sleep, and that just makes everything feel worse, right? Everything feels awful. Your mood's awful, your pain threshold's lower, everything is bad. Dee says she's really excited about this card. I love this card. It is so much fun. You know me, woodland critters, little animals, that's what I'm all about. Good morning, Cindy from Arizona. Thank you. I'm glad you like the card. It was actually one of our Stampin' Up artists. I don't know who designed the card, and I loved it, and I wanted to recreate it. So sometimes, you know, just knowing how to put it together, especially that extra trunk piece, it really makes it nicer to have that full extent of the tree out there and not just the three pieces. You really want to stretch that tree as much as possible. In fact, you could stretch it even more if you wanted to. You could make the top of the tree higher and the bottom of the tree lower if you added like one more extender on there. But I just think this is about as good as long as I want to go, because then you can still put clouds up at the top and stuff. But I love that, and I love that they put the directions right in the catalog, but there's a few little tricky little things that it's good to have a demonstrator just show people how to bring it together. And I wanted to show you some alternates too, just so you knew what you could do. If you didn't want to do that pull-out piece, you can do one of those extended cards, the slimline cards is what they call them. Good morning, Vera Blue from Tennessee. Good morning, Kimberly. Dee says the tent is a great idea because if you want to write a message, you wouldn't mess up the front cuteness of the critters. Yeah, once you stamp that, you don't want to mess with it, because what if you do something wrong and then you have to take cardstock and cover up the bad pieces, right? You like the butterflies and the balloons too. You know, isn't it weird about balloons? I almost feel like they always have to, someone has to be holding on to them. They can't just be floating out in the mid-air. So I had to find something to anchor them on, and the little butterfly was the perfect solution. Dee said the slimline envelopes I have found works well are regular Mead number 10 business size. Thank you for the number 10 business size. Okay, that's the ones you need. And I ran completely out, and I even went into my husband's office to see if he had any, and he did not have a one. So now I'm like pulling out my bills and spam mail. I'm like, do I not have an envelope that at least I can show them? It was kind of funny that I couldn't find an envelope, because I had a big batch of those envelopes. Maybe I shoved the box too far back. I'm going to have to double check, because I can swear that I had a box of those envelopes, because when something gets really low, I tend to reorder things, and we haven't been going through as many of those anymore, but still, I'm a reorder person, so I'm really surprised that I was completely out. Loretta. Hello, Loretta. Thanks so much for this tutorial. I love this stamp. Ordered it, but have been apprehensive about using it. So now you can use it. Make some cards this weekend. And then let me know. Send me a photo. I'd love to see it. You've made this look doable. The cards are awesome. Thank you so much. Dee says, I love the short tree card as well as the long fold-up card. So very cute. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me this morning. And if you like my video tutorial and you're not already a subscriber, make sure you subscribe to my channel. And if you need the supplies to make this card, I would love it if you would order from me. I always send you a free tutorial. When you order, you can choose one of my over 70 tutorials that I have. I have cute little 3D tutorials that you will love to make, some people pay to have those, and you can choose one free with your order, so I always appreciate that. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will be back doing another video next Tuesday. It's my Casing Tuesday video, and I'm on Facebook. I do those live on Facebook Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern. And then every Friday you'll find me live on YouTube at around 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I hope you'll join me for my videos then. Have a great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.